In this activity, players start at the forehand contact point and bump the ball back to the parent. This activity introduces the forehand contact point, which is the position of the body when the racket hits or contacts the ball on the dominant side. Players begin in the ready position a short distance away from the net. They hold the racket at the forehand contact point. To find the forehand contact point, ask the player to make a low 5 with their hand in front of and slightly to the right of their body, or from your view, the left. Then place their racket in their hand so that the strings point to the net, and the racket from tip to butt cap is parallel with the net. The right arm should be bent at the elbow. Younger players may start with their racket held up by the throat so that the racket is easier to maneuver and less tiring to hold. The left arm is up and parallel with the right, with the hand over the belly button. Parents should check that the forearm and the racket are at a 45-degree angle from one another and not in a straight line. For players holding the racket up by the throat, the handle of the racket should not be close to the forearm. Parents should check that the arm is at 45 degrees from the body instead of directly perpendicular to or parallel with the net. Please note that kids who have been introduced to tennis elsewhere may be inclined to stand with their feet side on to the net. However, for this challenge, players should start with their feet and chest pointing forward. If they do not, it is very likely that they will make contact with their body side on to the net rather than facing forward. For this activity, the parent gently tosses the ball in front of the player's racket. The player calls out bounce as the ball hits the ground, steps with their left foot as if they were walking toward the ball. As the player steps, their torso should rotate slightly away from the net naturally. The player then turns their hips and torso and lifts the racket arm upward and slightly across their body as they do so, bumping the ball back over the net to the parent. The player calls out hit, then returns to the starting position. If the player makes 4 bumps in a row, they win the point. If the player misses the ball, hits it too hard, or otherwise does not hit it directly to the parent wins the point. Play until the player beats the parent in a game, then move on to the next challenge. On future attempts, challenge the player by asking them to start with their racket in the ready position, as well as their feet. In the ready position, the racket should be held in front of and away from the body, with the left hand at the throat of the racket, or holding the grip above the right hand. The parent says ready to cue the player to go to this ready position. They then say low 5 to cue the player to move to the contact point. Once the player is in the contact point, the parent tosses the ball. As the player becomes more skilled, reduce the time between the low 5 cue and the throw.